Soldano, president of Family Enterprise USA. We advocate for multi-generationally owned family businesses and their lifetime of savings in Washington, D.C. at a national level. We represent all industries of family business and all sizes of family business. I'm very pleased to have with me today David Brown, who is the president, CEO, and chairman of the board of Wyo Ben, and we're very fortunate to have David also a board member of Family Enterprise USA. So welcome, David.
Thanks, Pat, and thanks also for all the great work that you and the team at FEUSA do to represent family business.
You're very welcome. So we are very anxious to hear about your story, the history of the family business, a little bit about it, including maybe the number of employees, locations. So why don't you give us a little bit of that?
Sure. I think I'll start with what we do. We are a 74-year-old family-owned and family-managed business. We're a base material mining and manufacturing company, and we mine a very unique industrial mineral called sodium bentonite. Sodium bentonite is a volcanic origin 100 million years ago, and it's a very high-performing clay found in the highest quality only in Wyoming. We are one of only 4 producers, and we are one of those materials that you never hear about but use every day. For example, the engine block in your car and the gasoline that you put in it, bentonite was used to enable both of those. The fiber optic that runs to your house, that cable probably used bentonite to put it in the ground. In the wine that maybe you enjoy, bentonite was used to clarify that. Your cell phone, bentonite was used as one of the important industrial minerals in the manufacture of that. Cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, the paint on your house, and even the litter that you put in your cat box that makes your cat happy and probably you even happier. Those are just a few of the uses of this incredible industrial mineral. It's actually called the clay of 1,000 uses. It is considered an essential mineral by the Department of Homeland Security, and essential meaning that it's not on the critical list, but it is a mineral that is used to enable the mining and processing of the critical minerals. We're headquartered in Montana, in Billings, Montana, and we have mining operations in Wyoming. A bit of our history: my grandfather, Rockwood Brown, came to Billings in 2011, fresh out of law school. He and his law school classmate, as the story goes, got off the train in Billings and started a law practice. And interestingly, today that practice still exists. It's the Brown Law Firm. But he was also quite an entrepreneur, and he had gas stations, radio stations. He started a ranch and a farm, which is still in the family. It's an active cattle ranch and farm. And then in addition to that, he, in the 30s and 40s, saw some potential with bentonite. And he did a number of federal mining claims, which became really the foundation of our company. My father, Keith, and his sister and 2 brothers really started the company. It was my dad that became the active leadership in the company. He was the president and built the very first plant in Grable, Wyoming, where we began to process the clay that we were mining from that particular area at the time. And through growth and acquisition, we now have 4 plants in Wyoming where we process the clay from all of our deposits. We have right around 4 dozen active mining pits in one state or another. We also have 2 packaging plants, one located in Montana and one in Toronto. And these plants package private label cat litter, not under our label, but under customers' label. And our customers are the large pet specialty stores, many of you which you would be very familiar with, and online retailers in the US and Canada, as well as in Europe. We produce about 1 million tons per year, and we ship our products to every continent in the world. We have 28 shareholders, and our ownership spans 5 generations. There are a couple things that I just wanted to point out that I think makes us unique among family-owned businesses. And the first is that 20 years ago, we adopted a governance model which mandated a majority of independent outside directors. It was a great decision. It was a decision that was made after we learned how some family businesses, how they were benefiting from having independent directors. And we just took the plunge. The other, I think, unique thing for us is that we have a very active family council. And you might think of a family council as the board of the family shareholders. They are the conduit for expressing the family's wishes in terms of liquidity, ownership, direction of the company. And they also are really the conduit for us in pulling together the family. The one thing I did want to mention about the directors, and I think it's important, they are not our friends. They're not, although they do become our friends. They're not our CPA. They're not our attorney. They are professional leaders. They're CEOs or senior people in companies that either currently are working or have recently retired. And they bring a certain expertise to our board that fills a particular gap that we're looking for as we pursue the strategy of the company.
Well, that's a fascinating background, and thank you for sharing all of that, because those are a lot of questions I would have thought of, you've answered. But one of the questions I'd like to hear about is the 300 employees that you have. We have learned that about 70+% of family businesses have generations of employees, meaning mother, daughter, son, grandparent, working in the business. Do you have employees? Do you have generations of employees working in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the small communities that our plants are located in and that we operate in, we have so many examples of 3 generations or more of a particular family or a broader family working at Wyo Ben. And even today, we have fathers and sons working in the same plant or in different plants. It's very much a tradition at Wyo Ben, and I think very much a part of why we call it the Wyo Ben family, because it is all of those people in these small communities coming together for making us a great company.
So you are, as you mentioned, and truly an international company. You ship to every continent, as you said, on the planet. And so what would you say over the years has been, you've obviously grown very well, but what would you say has been your biggest impediment to growth?
Well, over the years, it's been a variety of things. I think more recently, our biggest impediment is people. And we have the customers, and we have the mining, we have the resources, we have the mining capacity, we have the production capacity. But what we lack is enough staff to operate the additional shifts that we need to continue to grow. And it's become in the last year rather critical for us. We're trying to add shifts to 3 plants at the moment, and it's difficult. So in my opinion, that would be our largest impediment that we face today.
I hear that from a lot of family business owners. As you know, we did Family Enterprise USA's annual survey, and the number one issue they're facing is hiring, retaining employees to do that work. So let's talk about some of the other challenges that you face specifically around transitioning your business from one generation to the next. That always challenges family businesses, but how have you addressed that? And how the laws maybe in this country affected that transition?
Yeah. We have navigated so far transitions. We haven't had, since I'm 3rd generation, we haven't had a huge need yet. Although we do see that on the horizon, and I think there are significant headwinds with estate taxes and our financial ability to transfer the business to the next generation of owners. I do have one of my children who has become active in the business. And we are starting to think about how we can successfully transfer ownership. I am quite concerned about in the event of a death of a major shareholder, how we deal with that if the tax law were to change and make it much more difficult. We want to stay private. And actually, our employees want us to stay private. We did a recent acquisition within the last year, and we purchased the Bentonite operation of one of our competitors, which was part of a huge multinational company. And we heard from the first day that we stepped in, we heard that those employees were so thankful to be now owned and managed and appreciated by a family business. So it is a goal of ours to stay private. I also think that there are, some real strong headwinds on the federal level with the way federal lands are managed. And I think it really comes down to a concern about federal overreach. There are a number of issues that we deal with, and we deal with them quite successfully, and we work through our state and local governments. One of them is the sage-grouse issue. Some of you may be familiar with sage grouse. It is not an endangered species yet, but it is threatened. The sage grouse habitat is in 11 Western states, and these 11 states have come together to create management plans to preserve habitat, keep the population of sage grouse healthy, but still allow for the development and the coexistence of industry and recreation. Cultural resources. We operate in many cases on Native American or near Native American lands. And there are numerous examples of rock art that has to be protected by allowing development of the resource and still keeping those cultural resources protected. Archaeology, WOTUS, Waters of the U.S., is a big concern. There recently has been an effort to broaden that to the point that in a semi-desert area like the Bighorn Basin where we operate, we get 6 inches of moisture per year. And under some of the new WOTUS rules, every little river that might be created as a storm event would be regulated under WOTUS laws. Permitting, how quickly we can get permits, huge issue for us. And then finally, federal mining law, which has been in place for a number of years, and it really is our legal right, gives us the legal right of ownership to the claims that we have on federal lands that we've held for over 75 years. And if that were to change, and then there are some proposals for change, that would significantly impact our resource holdings and the future of the company.
Well, you talked about some of those challenges that you're facing. Is there anything else that Congress could do, or how regulations could change that would help you, as opposed to maybe hindering the business moving forward? You talked about the estate tax. Certainly, every family business deals with the estate tax. It's one of the most difficult things they deal with, as well as the rate of the income tax. But you also mentioned some of the regulations that significantly affect, and the environmental laws, your business. Are there other things that Congress could help use so that you can provide more for your employees, for your family, for your community?
Yeah, there are a number of things, I think. You mentioned tax. We would certainly not like to see tax law change to where it made it much more difficult for a family business to be kept in the family, that doesn't force a family to sell a generational business to pay taxes. Our labor issue, we are not one of a few. I think if we had a better managed immigration policy, it potentially would enable new workers to come to Wyoming that we desperately need. And then on the regulation side, rather than the gotchas, we would encourage policy that encourages mineral development rather than discourage it. Public and private sentiment towards mining is generally negative. And, I have to say that everything we use has to be either grown or mined. And people just don't recognize that. I talked about the cell phone. People don't appreciate that a cell phone, which, is such a necessity for all of us, takes 36 minerals to produce. And they're minerals that most of them are produced in the US at this time. I don't think any of us would like to see those minerals being forced offshore to other countries where they may not be available. As we grow up, we're taught and reminded that mining is bad. Children are taught in school that mining is not environmentally sound, and it's simply not true. There isn't enough of a counter argument to that, in my view, and that is industry's responsibility to provide that. But also, it's the media that reinforces mining as the villain. How many movies can you think of where mining was the hero. On the contrary, mining is the villain. It could be the storyline. And the irony of that is that a studio wouldn't exist without mining. They wouldn't have the cameras to shoot the film without mining. So, in reality, without mining and the security of mining minerals in our own country, we just wouldn't have the standard of living that we have today. And I think Congress needs to better appreciate that and do what they can to enable the environmentally friendly and responsible mining of these minerals in the United States.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because you're right. I never really thought about it. Mining is always portrayed as a negative. We couldn't survive without it in this country. So I hope the industry does speak up more and talk more about the importance of mining in this country. It's like so many other things. The media paints everything with the same brush in terms of mining and as well as other issues. So you address the community and how important the business is to the community and some of the laws that exist. Tell us, as a final question to you, what are some of the things that your family business does to support your local community? We've learned that 72% plus of family businesses do support their local community as opposed to national. I mean, they support both, but they support more to their local community. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mentioned that we operate in very small communities. The largest community is 5,000 people, and two of the other communities are less than 2,000. So what we give back to the community, in addition to providing, in many cases, we're the major employer, certainly in the top two or three. But what we give back to the community to create a sustainable community is so important. And quite frankly, it's a bit self-serving. But the things that we like to participate in and give money to are things that allow children to develop through schools, providing, if maybe it's an art curriculum or some day trips to an art museum in Billings, some 150 miles away. Things that the kids growing up in these small communities may never experience unless somebody were to enable that. Another thing we do is we do participate in a book program. It's a Wyoming nonprofit that does this, but in the counties that we operate, we take a significant role in providing books to libraries and students, and books that likely they would never read if this opportunity wasn't presented. So we do support the sports programs. We support the local nonprofits, but the things that we really like are those that create sustainable communities, and quite frankly, will provide workers for our plants in the years to come with great paying jobs, and create communities that where people can make a great living and continue to live the Wyoming lifestyle that so many of them appreciate.
Well, that's excellent. This has been such a pleasure, David, hearing about you, your family, your business, how you support your community. Really, really appreciate your time on this call today. I know that our listeners will appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for being on this call.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate the opportunity.